Will you see Daddy yet? Daddy's coming. There's Daddy! Daddy! Daddy, Daddy! How are you doing?
It's not going well. It's not going well at all. What are you gonna do? What's going on, everybody? I wanted to tell you a quick story that was one of those life-changing stories for me, and I couldn't help myself but to share it with you, because if it helped me, I hope it helps you. And I think I grew a lot as a human being out of this story, and it is my true hope that you get inspired by this and you get something out of it. So here it is. Let's begin. A year and a half ago, I was at the heaviest I've ever been, 227 pounds. I'm 6 feet tall, 44 years old back then. And I was almost 45, but I was 227 pounds. One of the days we went out to eat in a restaurant in El Segundo, and we were having fun. And my wife tells me to go to play with my young baby. He's about 2.5 years old during that time, and I go outside and I play with him, and he was having fun, and we were chilling. And then my wife comes out to join us a little bit, but she was distracted with the other kid, with my older child. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my 2.5-year-old Evan, here's a photo of him right here, he just starts bolting. There he is. Look at cutie little pie. He starts just bolting towards the street. So we were in some restaurant area, and he starts running towards the street. I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought he would definitely stop before the cars, but there was a road coming up, and he didn't stop. Out of panic, I quickly got out of wherever I was sitting, and I tried to move my 227-pound body as fast as I possibly could to try to save my son from possibly getting hit by a car going 35, 40 miles per hour. And my body was so big, I was so out of shape, I was so overweight that I never caught up to him. So my son ended up running to the street, reaching the street, and a Good Samaritan saw him and swiped him out of the sidewalk right before he hit the road, and he might have very likely he would have gotten hit by a car. Problem is, my body, I was just too big, whatever. It was a turning point in my life. My wife was naturally not very pleased with how big I was, and how that almost cost my son almost getting hit by a car. And I remember her telling me, "I have never seen you run so slow in my life," and that just really hit me. And the whole event really hit me. Long story short, it was when I went to bed that night, I did not even want to think what would have happened if that Good Samaritan wouldn't have been there. And whose fault is it? It's my fault for being so darn big that I couldn't even move my big body to save my own son from getting hit by a car. That was a revelation like I've never seen in my life. It was a turning moment. It was a come to Jesus moment in your life, whatever you want to call it. It was a transformational moment that something had to change. Something had to change. A lot had to change. And I decided that I don't just want to be in a little bit better shape or I almost had my son get hit by a car. So no, something had to move in an extreme way. Decided that I was going to start training, and I was going to become a runner again, and I was going to run the Los Angeles Marathon back in 2024, which was scheduled for March 17th, 2024. I was a year and a half from that. And I know what you're saying. How do you go from being so big and 227 pounds to trying to maybe sign up for a marathon? Because when you put goals that are very small, you don't take them seriously. But when you put goals that are so out of reach that you think it's crazy, that's when once you commit to that goal, you will take your training seriously, because you have a marathon in front of you. So the first thing you do to make that goal for real and being in your face is to confront it. And by confronting it means you start telling people about your goal. That way they hold you accountable. And I started putting it online that I started training for the marathon. And I started, and I was so big, I just want to say that on my first run, soon after the incident with my son, I went out for a run that was almost 3/4 of a mile, okay, a little more than half a mile, and I was so out of shape I couldn't even run that distance without having to stop 3 times for a walking break. So the start wasn't good. The goal of running a marathon 26.2 miles when you can't even run 0.75 miles seemed just not possible. Okay, let's just put it that way. Another lesson that I learned through this process is that when a goal seems impossible to reach, it's only because you're looking at it the wrong way. It's leaps and bounds of improvement, which is what you hope to see, is never going to come. What you want is to remember that you need to respect the process. Remember that marginal gains towards your goal is what gets you to achieve what people would consider the impossible. Okay? Marginal gains. You're never going to go to the gym, workout, and start running 5-minute miles like in 5 minutes. It's not going to happen. But all you have to do is say, if I can wake up today and do something that makes me a little bit better at what I need to do to reach my goal, a little bit, anything, weight training, eating better, decisions on what goes inside your mouth, you know, like if you're gonna eat chips or you're gonna eat something with more nutrition. So whatever goes. Also, when you don't feel like it, running a mile is better than running no miles. Doing 5 push-ups is better than doing no push-ups. So it is this little marginal, tiny little gains that you have to trust, because that trust on that process is what's gonna get you to your body will flip one day and it will transform into the machine you never thought you had. And that's part of the story here. Long story short, I spent 1.5 years training. I rarely missed a workout. I did what I could to take my training seriously, because a marathon is a long distance, but it can also be dangerous if you don't train properly. 2 weeks before the marathon, after not missing much of a workout, 2 weeks before the marathon, I was running with my family in Huntington Beach, and I developed some sort of intestinal problem, and I had to go to a surgeon the next day, and they had to do a procedure on me 2 weeks before the marathon, which was very painful. And I thought for sure all my training for the LA Marathon was going to go out the window, because I can't even get out of bed from all the pain. Another problem is my left foot has a Lis Frank dislocation. If you don't know what that is, take a look. But it's one of the worst injuries a person can have in their foot. I had it. It happened to me from a running accident back when I was in my early 20s, and the surgeon didn't put the screws properly, and he botched the surgery, and my foot is split into 2 pieces, and then the screws broke inside my foot. My left foot, as of now, even since the surgery, has been permanently broken, and it will always be broken for the rest of my life unless I get another surgery to fuse the bones back together. I decided that since the surgeon said 2 more surgeries to fuse the bones is not worth it, and it's better just to deal with the pain, now I have to deal with the pain that every time I go for a walk or for an extended run, I can feel the broken bone in my left foot, which is by far, I guess you can say, not fun at all in any way, shape, or form. Not fun to have that pain. And that pain has become so constant in my life that my brain has just learned to ignore it. But when you're running a marathon and you're putting your body through 50, 60, 70,000 steps, trust me, that pain will come to you and you will feel it in all its glory. So intestinal surgery, 2 weeks before the surgery, 2 weeks before the marathon, then you have the photo show that I went to called WPPI. During this show, I got the flu, because that's what happens at these shows in Las Vegas. You get the flu. And I came home pretty upset because I had the flu. I had a fever. That fever wasn't going away. And the marathon was in about a week from the moment I got back from Las Vegas, from WPPI, from the photography convention there. I did everything I could to sleep, to eat well, to drink electrolytes, to do whatever I needed to get myself better. I did get a little bit better, but guess what? Marathon morning came. March 17th finally came. After 1.5 years of training, my alarm goes off. I turn off my alarm and I go check my temperature because I don't feel well at all. I still have the flu. And now I have a marathon to run that day. So check my temperature. My temperature thermometer read 101.5, and I could feel my body quite hot, and I could feel my bones just achy. It was so hard just to get out of bed. I couldn't imagine that in a few hours I was not only going to be just doing my basic walking around the house or whatever, going to cook breakfast, but nope, I was going to be at the starting line of the longest distance, besides ultra marathons, of course, a person could put themselves through. A 26.2 mile run for the Los Angeles Marathon 2024 was upon me with a fever, broken foot, the flu, and a week or 2 weeks after intestinal surgery or procedure, whatever you want to call it. Not a good stack of cards going in your direction, let's put it that way, okay? Things were just not working out. That's okay. Here's where the craziness begins. I start the race, the miles start to go. I start concentrating and praying to whatever God you believe in to please let me just get through as far as possible before something starts to happen. Well, that didn't happen. At mile 4.5 or something, I had to pull myself to the side of the road, and I couldn't, it was just involuntarily, my body just started throwing up in the middle of the road. I had to get myself out. This is not even mile 5 of the LA Marathon. My couple of Good Samaritans came to me. They asked if I needed help. They asked if I needed a medical staff or whatever. And I told the nice man, all I want is to finish this marathon. And of course, he started chuckling in laughter, and he said, buddy, I don't know your name, but you're not even in mile 5, and you're on the side of the road throwing up. You, my friend, are done. There is no finishing, no marathon for you. You're done. And I remember that I could have just very easily said, I am done, and there's nothing I can do. It's act of God or whatever, out of my control. I did what I had to do, but now I ended up with some bad luck. I ended up with a surgery, ended up with the flu. I have a fever. I got to get out. But then I remember my children were so excited that for the last week before the marathon, I worked up the entire thing about how when you finish, you get a medal. And when you finish something that you set yourself to, you can get a goal, a trophy or a medal or something. So my kids kept asking me before the marathon if I'm gonna be able to get that medal. And I was just like, of course I'm gonna get that medal. That is gonna run the LA Marathon, and I'm gonna get that medal. I'm gonna show it to you guys. And they were so excited to see the medal because they're going through this medal phase in their life, and they're so pumped about it. And all they talk about is medals. So of course, marathon comes, and Daddy has to come back with a medal. So that motivated me to go. At mile 8, I stayed at the side of the road on mile 5 or so for about 5 more minutes, clearing my head from any negativity that basically starts to block you. Any thoughts of quitting had to go, okay? Any thought of I cannot go any further had to leave. But all the thoughts of one foot in front of the other, just one foot in front of the other, and I will make progress. Small progress is what gets you there. So I kept that in mind. It's better to just take a step forward and not think about 26.2 miles that I have. Just take a step forward and then take the other foot forward and keep going and keep going and keep going. Finally, I called my wife on mile 8. Turns out my procedure that I had done, the intestinal one, started coming back to bite me, and it was hurting me pretty bad. And I couldn't believe my luck. To make matters worse, I managed to concentrate and continue running with that pain inside of me. The doctor did clear me for running the marathon, so she just said it would be painful, and the pain definitely came. But I was not in any kind of physical or health danger by running it or anything. It was just gonna be painful. But on mile 13, halfway through the marathon, I developed a blister that was this big. It was the size of my heel on my left foot. And when I took off my shoe and I tried to put a Band-Aid, I couldn't find a Band-Aid big enough to cover the size of the blister, which was like this, and it was right on my heel. So every time I took a step, it would just be pounding the pain from that blister that was ginormous. On top of the fact that that foot's broken from the surgery 20 years ago, and on top of the fact that I was dealing with my body feeling achy and fluish and have a fever on top of all of that. But my kids were waiting for me on FaceTime. I put them on FaceTime to give me inspiration, and they were so excited to see me on mile 16, which is the mile the course of the LA Marathon passes right by my house on mile 16. So at mile 16, my wife is like, look, just make it to mile 16, Beverly Hills, say hi to the kids, and then just go home. Okay. So I said, okay, next goal is not think about 26.2 miles. Let's just get to mile 16. I'm on mile 13. Let's go 3 more miles. 3 more miles just seems like 20 more miles. It's just so painful to step on that heel with that blister. And at that point, I just started feeling like I was losing my head or something. And I kept telling myself, no negativity, no negativity. Just one foot in front of the other. Progress, progress, progress is better than no progress. To my surprise, I finally made it to mile 16. I saw my kids. That was the best moment of the marathon. They had their signs. They were showing, they were screaming, they were talking. They were so excited to see their daddy. And then they were so excited that I was gonna finish the marathon and get their medal that they had been talking about so much. So instead of telling my wife, like, let's just go home, which was very tempting, the most tempting thing in my life was to have the ability to quit. You have your house right there. Nobody will blame you for quitting because you how badly sick you were and basically injured, and nobody would have said anything. It would have been okay. But the thought of disappointing my children and not bringing that medal back, I just could not bear that. And as a father, I don't know how many people are watching this that are parents, but as you know that you will move mountains to not disappoint your kids, and you will move mountains too to make them proud of their dad and their mom or whatever. So I wanted my kids to be so proud, and I wanted them to know that not when the going gets tough, you just don't quit. Okay, you keep going, and progress, little marginal progress, gets you there. That feeling of being uncomfortable, that I would say suffering, is you achieving something most humans don't have the energy or the desire to do because they live in a comfort state. And a comfort state is a state where you're not progressing, you're not moving. An object in motion stays in motion. Okay, an object that's still stays still. I do not want to be still. I want to be in motion. You only live one time. One time. You have one chance on earth. How many opportunities, how many experiences are you going to give away or not ever have because you're trying to be comfortable all the time? So I did this. Mile 16 was one of those mind over matter things that I could not believe it worked. And I noticed that if I told my brain I have 10 miles to go, my head and my body would just shut down. I don't even want to take 10 steps, let alone think I would have to run 10 miles. I remember during my training, when I said I have a 10-mile run, I would prepare for like 5 days for that 10-mile run because 10 miles is a long way. And I just thought, geez, if I think about that, I'm never going to finish because I have 10 miles to go. That was the equivalent of some of the longest runs I had to do in my training, besides when I had to run the 18, 20 miles training sessions. But the beginning of my long runs were 10 miles. And I remember mentally having to prepare to move my feet for 10 entire miles. It took a lot of mental processing, took a lot of work, motivation to be able to do it. And now I have to do it after I already ran 16 miles in the worst possible human conditions I could possibly endure. So that was not going to work. Option B was to keep running and seeing the boards with the mileage that the organizers put up, and it said mile 17 and then mile 18. It turns out that when your brain is about to shut down from the extreme physical, I guess, punishment you're putting it through, looking at the mileage go up, like mile 16, 17, 18, 19, it actually makes you feel like you're going farther away from home. Yeah, you're getting farther away. All your brain wants to do is to end this. You do not want to see yourself getting farther and farther from a psychological point of view of looking at things. So instead of looking at the mileage like I have 10 miles to go, or I'm gonna keep going on mile 17 and then 18 and then 19 until I get to 26, those two things were gonna lead me to total failure. Instead, I looked at it from another perspective. I said, what if I look at it like a countdown? Everybody can handle a countdown. If you're doing something really hard and somebody says 5 seconds more, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you did it, and then you can let go. Your brain will handle so much more mind over matter when you're doing a countdown than when you're doing a count up, right? So if you tell somebody to do something for 25 seconds, okay, 1, 2, you will never get there. But if you count down, you just want to hear that 0 or you want to hear that 1. So I kept going I saw the mileage, the mile marker number 17. At mile 17, I have 9 miles to go. At mile 18, I have 7 miles to go. And then like that. So I just kept doing the math and telling myself, instead of looking at the mileage number, I'm just gonna count down. Mile 10, and then I just have single digits. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. I get to 3, that's mile 23. I have 3 miles left. I've done 5K runs every day. I can do those things with my eyes closed because of all my training. My legs felt okay. My foot was on fire. My intestinal situation was on fire. My flu and my bones were aching in every way possible to the highest degree at this point, but I only had 3 miles to go. Then 2, then 1, and then I start seeing the very faint markings of the finish line in front of me. And my friends, the emotion that came from thinking back in mile 5, which seemed like a week ago, okay? When I was crossing, when I could see the finish line, I cannot even explain to you the feeling of euphoria, the feeling of endorphins just filling your brain with achievement, something, the most incredible moment of pride, achievement, and dedication. Everything came together. The smile of my kids, like when they see their daddy crossing the finish line, me getting that medal. I cannot tell you how much I wish I wouldn't have been so sick, but I learned the most valuable lesson in the world, that you have to live your life with some excitement. You gotta push yourself, you gotta progress, you gotta take risks. And when you set small goals, you may not reach them, but if you set yourself big goals, you take them more seriously. And I learned that the bigger the goal, the more outrageous people think you are for trying to get there. But guess what? I learned that small marginal benefits, small marginal gains, little bit at it every day. What can I do to get a little bit, 1 inch toward closer to that goal? That is what's gonna get you to reach goals that some humans just think, I'm not capable of that because I have knee problems, I have foot problems, I have brain problems. You have mental blocks about everything. But the city I live in, we don't have rocks, we don't have trails, we don't have roads. I don't want to put myself through that. I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too good looking, I'm too bad looking. I don't know what it is that people have in their mental block, but guys, the feeling of achievement for setting yourself a crazy goal and actually going for it, that discipline you have to go through, the teaching that you tell your brain that no matter if you feel sick, if it's raining, if it's sunny, if it's nighttime or if it's daytime, you do not miss a workout. You keep going, you keep running, you keep doing it. And I got to the finish line thanks to that training. The impossible became possible. I could have run a marathon no problem without the sickness, but with the sickness, the foot surgery, the intestinal surgery, and the blister, those were just a lot of things going against me. But I'm proud to show you the medal here. And this medal just looks like a piece of metal to you with a ribbon. But this medal changed my life because of what it symbolizes. It symbolizes that, literally, not to be cheesy, but when you're in the heat of the moment, it's a mental block that brings you down. It's just requires you to look at things in a different way, and you'll be amazed what's on the other side of that turn, because your body will switch, your mind will take over, it will make your body do things you never thought possible, and you have an experience in your life that you will never forget. In your deathbed, you will remember this incredible journey, this incredible experience. And I lost 50 pounds running, from 227 pounds. Now I'm down to like 173, 174. And I'm wearing medium clothing now instead of extra large or extra large. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm eating better. And trust me, when my little baby wants to race daddy or wants to run towards the street where cars are coming at 40 miles per hour, this time daddy will be there to catch him. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you feel inspired and you get out there and give yourself a goal that you think you cannot reach and start going for it little by little. Cheers and take care. Bye.